It is episode 129 of the Demons from Outer Space. Dylan McCandless, Super DM64, joining me, Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar. Dylan, greet the folks.
Hi, everybody. You know, before the show, we were discussing a very tender topic, which is the recent scandal with Kevin Spacey. And all I want to say on recording about it is that I'm not mad, Kevin. I'm just disappointed.
He has been thinking about this a lot, so I'm glad that he decided to get it out there at the very top. Me, on the other hand, I'm just like, fuck. Well, he did play Lex Luthor. Dylan,
The best Luthor.
In real life, he certainly seems to have justified that.
And what I will argue is an underrated, though flawed Superman movie. He played probably the best iteration of the character on screen so far. But that's neither here nor there.
I'm not lifting any Kryptonite mountains for Superman Returns. I'm sorry.
Had Cranston been cast in BVS, perhaps we would have a better one by now. But nope.
Just, they decided instead to go after him for Jim Gordon, and he was like, I don't want to be in like 7 movies, so no. Which is unfortunate. I would love to see Bryan Cranston in 7 movies in a row.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about that is that I would like to see Bryan Cranston be in those 7 movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Bryan Cranston, why are you robbing yourself of us from 7 movies? Like, please.
I mean, he committed to being Zordon in the Power Rangers movie, and if that had gone better, he could have been in fucking like 7 of those, you know? Like, why is he accepting any big roles if that's the case? What if they hadn't killed him in Godzilla and he'd gone on to be the fucking Mickey Sagusa?
No, he would have gone on to become Jet Jaguar, as we said, which might still happen because they don't necessarily need him. They just need his corpse. It would be like Michael Shannon and Batman v Superman. Like, they just need his corpse there to turn him into a big monster.
No, even better, they RoboCop Jet Jaguar. It's Bryan Cranston's reanimated corpse walking around in a robotic body.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So you just need the corpse.
My God.
You just need to put the corpse in there. It'd be great. It'd sort of be like the Avas from Evangelion. You know, it's really a shame that I've used all this time up at the top that we've been, you know, talking about current events and bullshitting and talking about insane ways to put Bryan Cranston's corpse in robotic bodies. But I didn't use that time to get the science articles out, which is unfortunate because that's what we're doing this week, right, Dylan?
Yeah, we're gonna do some science articles because you know what? That doesn't require a lot of effort, and we did a lot of effort last month. We're fucking tired.
By a lot of efforts, we watched some movies.
No, we did. Don't diminish the shit. All right, we recorded 9 commentaries, 2 epic SOS podcasts that required a lot of work prior to their being recorded, as well as
he is really tired. I can hear it in his voice. Maybe he's over dramatizing it, but I hear the inflection, like a farmer who's just finished up after a long day of fucking yanking cow udders and shit. That's what Dylan McCandless sounds like right now.
Yeah, inseminating cows, or as I like to call it, making beef. Well,
listen, if that's what you want to do, I'm not gonna judge you for it out loud on this podcast. Although I probably should. It'd be funny and give us more stuff to talk about then.
I'm just saying, you likened me to a cow farmer, and that's what they do. Anyway, but no, yeah, there was all that. There were 4 episodes of this show, all horror movie reviews. And there was the Blade Runner review. So we did a lot of shit last month, and now we're just going to be like, yeah, let's read some articles and react to them in a sort of lazy but hopefully entertaining fashion.
Hopefully. We'll try our level best. So yeah, it's been a while since we've done this, and therefore there's a lot. So we'll see how many we get through. And I'm going to bounce around so that way we get to the more recent stuff as well, because a lot of stuff has happened like in the last few weeks that I think I have in here. And if not, hopefully you can help me out in remembering some of it. Like the pyramid thing. I think I have that in here.
I don't remember a pyramid thing.
You don't remember the pyramid thing? We'll get there. Don't worry about it.
Fucking Pyramid of Light.
Yes, we discovered the Pyramid of Light.
There's an AI now who can write fiction, so now we are obsolete.
I've felt that way for a long time. So, Dylan, since Halloween just wrapped up, do you want to start with a Halloween-esque story?
Sure.
So, I'm glad you sound so committal. So we're going back to the old well of IFL science. We have some sometimes problems with the way they word their articles. We'll see how it goes this time. We don't usually read these before we get on the call, so it's always just of a wing in it. But the whole idea here is it's the biological explanation for vampirism. I have heard this before. Have you?
Are they gonna do the whole albino thing?
They're gonna do the whole syphilis thing.
Oh, the whole syphilis thing. Yeah, that's also
That's what I want to know. And whatever they say, will it piss you and I off because it's not really accurate to the way that the article is titled? Because that's usually what ends up happening.
Either way, yeah, IFL science is clickbait as fuck.
Oh yeah, and this seems to be right up that kind of alley.
Either way, it's old fucking news. It's like I saw one the other day from IFL Science that was like, beer might give you man boobs. And I was like, we've known that forever.
Have you ever drank beer and had any sense of feeling afterwards? Because, yeah, that's how you feel. You feel man boobs growing on yourself, even if you're a woman. So let's see what they come up with this time. This is by Rosie McCall. I don't think we've seen some of her stuff before, so maybe this will be a little bit of a shock and awe.
I got my man boobs the old-fashioned way, with plenty of cake, the way God intended.
Suave predatory Count Dracula, demonic-looking Nosferatu, and glittery but conflicted Edward Cullen. Vampires take many forms, but a thirst for blood and an aversion to sunlight tend to be their defining characteristics. Not always, as we saw with one of the things that she used at the top. The word vampire first appeared in the English language. That's with the Y-R-E spelling. That appeared sometime in the 18th century, but their origins go back much further. The forerunners of the modern-day vampire can be found in ancient Greek and Mesopotamian folklore, and you can find myths of demon, blood-sucking creatures in cultures all over the world.
What folklore?
Ancient Greek and Mesopotamian... Oh, wait, hang on. Mesopotamian folklore, excuse me.
Does it actually say Mesopotamian?
Yes.
I thought you fucked up the first time. That's why I asked.
I did fuck up the first time. I said Mesopotamian. That's not what it says. It's Mesopotamian.
No, the first time you said it apparently right, but I thought you had fucked up because I've never heard of whatever. I thought you were trying to say Mesopotamian and fucked up. That's why.
That's what I thought happened. Do you want to look that up real quick to see if that's a real place and see if they fucked that up? Because I'm not convinced.
Mesotopian? Is that?
Yeah, so Mesotopia is what you'd be looking for. But yeah, it's not it's not Mesopotamia.
I type in Mesotopia and I get, did you mean Mesopotamia? They obviously just forgot.
Really? Oh my god.
So
I love this website. So this is why we use this website. It provides both some science and very little science and mostly hilarity at the chagrin of the authors, which is unfortunate, and I hope that they're not listening because they'll probably be pissed. But if they are, I mean, hey, maybe spell check.
So you were talking about Mesopotamia. They had vampires apparently.
Well, I mean, they're really broadening the idea of a vampire out to demonic, blood-sucking creatures and cultures all over the world, which is absolutely true. I mean, the idea of the vampire is not really unique, even when it was kind of invented. Like, there's been stuff people have been talking about scaring them for, since like fire and cave times that fits that bill. But
did you hear about that? Did you hear about that recent thing in Southern Africa, where apparently they actually literally still believe in vampires down there because of the poor education, and there's been a vampire scare, and they've been going around like killing suspected vampires and burning their bodies like Salem witch style.
Oh my god, yeah! I was gonna say that's like the Salem witch trials or the werewolf trials. I might have that in here, maybe, even though it's not really science. Hang on, I'm gonna check real quick.
I shared it on Facebook one day, and I was like, this looks bad, but what if there are vampires? Just saying.
Let's be sure. I'm not seeing
What-
it, so I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's interesting and horrible, but isn't it crazy that that kind of belief exists in our modern world? You know, people are always like, "Oh, the world is nothing, nothing strange or unknown left to explore." The human psyche, my friend, is strange and unknown in ways that
no,
nothing else will ever.
not for us, but for fucking people in third world countries who still believe in vampires. Yeah.
Well, but the fact
There's,
that that belief still exists so strongly is what I'm saying. Like what the
yeah.
what the human psyche is capable of in the face of modern society is scary and fascinating unto itself, just as much as a vampire.
And you might think, how could they believe in such things, given like the technology that we have today? But you know,
they don't get
they
it.
don't.
They don't have the same kind of society that we do. That's so reliant and based upon it.
And even if they're aware of the technology's existence, their level of understanding of it is so slim that they literally probably just think it's magic anyway.
Not even that. But I think that they just either they don't relate the two things, or one thing is just kind of like it's okay. It's like, okay, we have this modern world with all this technology and shit, but sometimes things from these older traditions still come up. I guess is the mindset there. I don't know. We're not our anthropologists, certainly.
All right. Have you ever seen the Gods Must Be Crazy? It's a fascinating study of this sort of thing. It's the comedy where from I want to say it was made in the 70s, or maybe it was early 80s. Those two time periods tend to look the same on film. But basically, an airplane flies over this remote part of Africa where there's this tribe that they've never interacted with the outside world, and they're living very just like fucking stereotypical African village type life. And this plane flies over one day, and of course they don't know what the fuck it is, and it drops a Coke can, or no, not Coke can, a Coke bottle, an old school glass Coca-Cola bottle falls from the plane and lands in the desert, and they find it, and their entire society basically gets turned upside down by this fucking Coke bottle, which they immediately, presume to be some sort of magical item.
Right. That is fascinating. I mean, I've seen stuff like that before recently in the real world. Like there was that uncontacted tribe in South America that a helicopter flew over for the first time, and they all freaked out and threw spears up at it.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was like a big predatory bird, because that's all that they can equate it to.
Yeah.
Presumably.
It's also, if anybody hasn't seen the movie, if that sounds dry to you, it's also a comedy, and it's fucking hilarious. So, Gods Must Be Crazy.
Well, here, so I've read a little bit ahead in this vampire article, so the explanation they give is a little different from what we threw out earlier. So, they've assured us that vampires aren't real. That's the first thing that they've said in this paragraph here.
That's awful fucking presumptuous there, ISL science.
One of the things that has been linked to vampirism is a blood disorder called, oh boy, erythropoietic protoporphyria. Yeah, let's go with that. EPP is what it's also known. EPP is the third most common type of porphyria. Okay, yeah, that I can say. Porphyria, and the most common to occur during childhood. Sufferers are extremely sensitive to light, to the point of burning and blistering when they're exposed to sunlight. Oof. I think I've heard of this before. Now that I'm thinking, maybe not the specific wording of it, like the EPP long word that I couldn't pronounce earlier, but I'm pretty sure I've seen this idea of this kind of disease before. People with EPP are chronically anemic, which makes them feel very tired and look very pale with increased photosensitivity because they can't come out in the daylight, says Barry Paw, MD of the Dana-Farber Boston Children's Cancer and Blood Disorders Center. Man, they must be really proud of that long name. Even on a cloudy day, there's enough ultraviolet light to cause blistering and disfigurement of the exposed body parts, ears, and nose. A modern-day patient would be advised to stay indoors during daylight hours, and they may be prescribed blood transfusions with sufficient heme levels? What's HEME? I think they fucked up again. Sufficient hemoglobin, maybe, is what they meant. I don't know. HEME. Any ideas, Dylan?
Hold on.
I'm holding on.
I think that's just some sort of abbreviation for hemoglobin that they use.
Okay, interesting. But back in medieval and ancient times, before modern medicine, they might have turned to animal blood and only come out at night to try to relieve symptoms on their own. Now, in a study published, I mean that if we're talking presumption, that's presumption. It's not. I'm not saying it's like entirely insane given what they've outlined about the disease here, but that is a stretch. Now, in a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Oh, okay.
What?
Heme is a type of molecule, partially made of iron, that is sort of the building blocks for hemoglobin. It's the most commonly recognized.
They're connected, though.
Yeah.
And
heme is hemoglobin is made of heme, apparently, I guess. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Interesting.
So
I learn things as we try to dig at the accuracy of IFL science. That's what I learned things. No, so far this has been, aside from that Mesopotamia thing, this has been better than some of the stuff we've read that's been, super opinionated and not very objective. Although that
I have a feeling that this writer,
Rosie, hang on, let's give her credit. Rosie McCall.
I get the feeling that she has an idea of how to write things, which is saying
that's
something,
a good first step. A good starting place. I'm sure she appreciates your kind words, D.
Yes, she may not know what Mesopotamia is, but compared to many authors,
or at the very least, how to spell it.
But in comparison to many of the authors that we have encountered in these lovely sessions of ours, I'd say that she's mid-tier, and that's nothing to be ashamed of.
Hang on. It's potentially possible. I just looked it up. Mesopotamia might have been an ancient name for Mesopotamia? Potentially? I'm seeing some links for it. Nothing solid, though. Maybe not. There seems to be some kind of transgression there. I don't know. That's a web we may never be able to unweave. But just to get back to the vampirism, just so we can wrap up on this and move on to something else. Now, in a study published in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, researchers report a newly discovered genetic mutation that is responsible for EPP, suggesting a biological mechanism behind the vampire myth. This newly discovered mutation really highlights the complex genetic network that underpins heme metabolism, says Paw, a co-senior author on the study. Interesting name. Loss of function mutations in any number of genes that are part of this network can result in devastating, disfiguring disorders. Aside from it being a fascinating explanation for vampirism, the researchers hope this insight can lead to the therapies that correct the faulty genes in people with EPP. Although vampires aren't real, there is a real need for innovative therapies to improve the lives of people with porphyrias. That's certainly a problem. So I don't know. I think I've heard that before, maybe, but if I did, I didn't know what it was called, and I certainly got a little bit more detail on it. So,
I mean, it pretty much just sounds like the same basic ideas.
The broad strokes, yeah. I mean, it's inspired by a real life disorder.
Basically, the same ideas as I've seen other people point to albinoism and early attempts to explain it as a jumping off point for vampire lore. This sounds like a similar disease that this author is putting forth as a possible inspiration. So, also with elements of anemia. Uh, what, what they in Salem's Lot, that's what they keep diagnosing the people that have died from the vampires. They always say, "Oh, it was pernicious anemia," and then the main character's like, "But they didn't have anemia." And it's like, well, like
They
apparently
just
they
got
did.
it. Deal with it. All right, Dylan, we're moving on from largely accurate and compelling Rosie McCall to somebody we have read before and have had some problems with, Tom Hale. We've read some of his stuff before. However, it's about a subject that we're usually always down for, and that is prehistoric animals. Dylan, apparently, the prehistoric hell ant has a metal horn that it used to attack prey. Have you ever heard of the hell ant, the prehistoric hell ant?
I have not even heard of the modern hell ant, if there is such a thing.
We'll find out, I suppose. If you would like to Google it, as you have with everything I've brought up so far, you are free to do so. Nature has a new contender for the most badass creature, a new species of prehistoric hell ant, with a metal-infused horn used to puncture and suck the blood of its enemies. We're still keeping with the blood-sucking trends. This is an interesting theme for the evening. I don't love science articles that use badass in the wording. Like, I feel like that's kind of a blatant attempt to get the kids on board, you know? Like, we know it's a prehistoric bug. We know it's cool, okay? Scientists have recently described this new species. Oh boy. Lingua Myrmix Vlad. Yep, there you go. In the journal Systematic. I'm tired, excuse me. Systematic Entomology. The Vlad part of the ant's name is a nod to the 15th century prince, Vlad III, better known as Vlad Dracula, due to its gory dietary habits. So there is a vampire connection here.
I thought it was going to be in reference to his tendency to impale people, not the fucking vampire shit that came afterwards. That's interesting.
No, I added that. I'm connecting it to what we were just talking about. It doesn't say the vampire thing. Well, I mean, I guess it's sort of implied because it says due to its gory dietary habits. But I mean, technically, Vlad the Impaler. But he would do that to his enemies, and then he would dab his bread into their blood. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, assuming that he actually did that. I mean, you never know how much of this is exaggerated
I've heard
when you
that.
talk about.
That's true. I don't know. I've heard that he did that though, and read it. I'm pretty sure. Outside of documentaries,
I've heard and read all of those things. I'm just saying that whenever you deal with historical figures from that far back, there's always some.
You're right.
You have to be suspicious of everything,
I'm suspicious of everything anyway.
Yeah, unless it's a religious book, in which case you just accept it. Apparently.
Me?
No, people in general.
Oh, sure. Definitely not me, though. I don't think people are suspicious of everything. Not in the right way, anyway. The genus roamed Earth during the late Cretaceous around 98.8 million years ago. It measures just a few millimeters long and was most likely a worker ant, just like most ant species from the Cretaceous. And now, these hell ants belong to an early species that are distinct from the modern lineage of ants. So yeah, no, there is no modern equivalent. And they don't look like anything that exists today anyway. They look real. It looks like a beetle mixed with an ant. The ferocious little specimen was found embedded in amber at a mine in Myanmar's Hukawang Valley, a place famous.
Oh my God! Do you think it ever drank some T-Rex blood?
Potentially. They'd have to. But I don't think they could get it out of the metal-infused horn, though. I think that's kind of the point. That's the problem. They can't pierce it. What if we found out like the metal that's in this ant is like the strongest fucking metal in history?
What if we discovered adamantium?
That would like the ANTamantium.
Oh!
Episode title, yes! I love it. I love when that happens naturally. It's great.
I think if we've learned anything today is that if Hank Pym travel back in time to the Cretaceous, he would be infinitely more powerful.
Yes, he would have a suit entirely made of ANTamantium. Can you just imagine the comic book covers in the 1960s that would ensue?
Yeah, yeah.
It would
And
just
then when
rock
he would
this this Iron Man, Ant-Man cross. And it would be the 60s, so it would be the 60s Iron Man suit, which would not necessarily be the best.
and then he would design a new form of it that could withstand him growing into his giant form, and it would be Gigantamantium.
XL ANTamantium.
Because if there's anything Hank Pym proved to be, it was down with the stupid giant ant puns.
Yeah, but
I remember when I figured that out as a kid. I was like, oh, Ant-Man turned into Giant Man. Wait a minute. Giant Man. Oh.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, he has so many other names. He had Goliath was his name for a while. He gave that name to somebody else, though, eventually, who died in Civil War. I don't remember what his name was. Like his actual name. He was Yellow Jacket, which is my favorite iteration of Hank Pym. And they turned that into the supervillain in Ant-Man, which is they could have done a really interesting thing with that if Hank Pym had been the villain. if they had gone full tilt with the whole idea of the Pym particles kind of drove him insane over time. They do a little bit with that, but it's not nearly to the extent of what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, they could have gone full Ultimate Marvel and just had Hank Pym be the worst asshole.
Yeah, right. God, wait until we get to Ultimates 2. You're gonna see just how far he went, because they really take that to its furthest extent. Anyway, so we're still talking about this prehistoric ant, though. This prehistoric ant made of the very ANTamantium that started this conversation. The ferocious little specimen was found embedded in an amber mine, a place famous for its amber deposits. Researchers from New Jersey, well, we'll excuse them on that front. Institute of Technology and the American Museum of Natural History used X-rays, light microscopy, CT scans, and other imaging techniques to inspect the hell ant's impressive head weaponry. Do you want to... I'll send you a link to this so you can see this with this ant. Or are you seeing pictures of it on Google? You should just Google it. Just Google the prehistoric hell ant.
I saw it.
You don't sound very impressed. I'm slightly impressed by what I'm looking at. Like I said, it looks like a beetle ant. Look at the size of it, too. Like, it's not bulky in the back, but the legs are super long. It's kind of spidery. It's very interesting. I'd love to see this in some kind of, like, King Kong Lost World type of movie.
I'd like to know what the queen looks like.
Oh, my God. They're like bees, man. Its paddle-shaped horn was likely reinforced with metal particles. Yes, metal. This, the researchers say, would have helped it cope with the stress and strain it sustained when being used to pin and potentially puncture soft-bodied prey. Although not seen quite like this, other insects are known to sequester. Yeah, sequester. That's not a word I've ever seen before, to be honest. Sequester metals to reinforce body parts, namely using calcium, manganese, zinc, and iron. It's most likely Vlad the Hell Ant used these basic metals as well. The horn is also lined with trigger hairs, similar to the ones used by trapjaw ants to shut their jaws closed at lightning speed. However, these ants were very different to the modern-day ant you see in your garden. The hell ant also had tube-like channels between its jaws, most likely because it was used to suck liquids like hemolymph, a fluid equivalent to blood in most insects. I didn't know that. I didn't know what that was called. The remains of this ant were found near to a large beetle larva, also trapped in amber, which the researchers believe could have been its dinner until it was so rudely interrupted. That's a good joke. Vlad the Hell Ant now lives on the American Museum of Natural History. Lives on in the American Museum of Natural History. Excuse me. These species join. The species join 6 other species of ancient Hydo. Oh God, they're throwing so many big words at me. This is why I love science, but man, it's so overwhelming. There's all these big words. Hydomyrcene hell ant, 4 of which were discovered in Myanmar, and on the other two being from current day France and Canada. So yeah, that's pretty fucking badass, ain't it?
Yeah, whenever we write a movie, we have to stoop to calling things atmospherium.
Right, exactly. So we'll just have to keep up with that trend of calling things ANTamantium and other such things. Why don't we go to...
This sounds like the best villain that Adamant could ever fight. No, I want.
Why wasn't there ever an Adamant Ant-Man crossover? I mean, I know why, because
Right.
they were owned by different companies. But like, why didn't Marvel? Why didn't Marvel and Hanna-Barbera? I mean, Marvel and Hanna-Barbera collaborated very briefly on the Fantastic Four cartoon. So why couldn't they also collaborate on a Ant-Man Adamant crossover?
Yeah, why not? It could be their version of all the weird DC Looney Tunes shit that's been happening lately.
Well, I mean, that's why it wouldn't happen, presumably, because Hanna-Barbera is more closely associated with Warner Brothers and Scooby-Doo and DC. So that's why. Like I said, Marvel had that one collab with them with the Fantastic Four cartoon. Have you ever seen that cartoon? It is bad.
The old one from like the 60s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
good.
from the 60s. I think it might be, like, if it is, it's from the late 60s. It might be from early 70s.
70s. Who knows?
I'm pretty sure it's after that. It's after the Spider-Man cartoon, which, despite being awful, still has a charm to it because all the memes that came from it. And Spider-Man in that show still has that, like, really dry sassiness that I love about old school Spider-Man. So that's what will always work about that show for me, even if it looks like the worst thing ever.
I was always shocked that Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends came out in the 80s. That looks like
Yes! Yep.
It looks like such a late 60s, early 70s show. It's got that, like, proto-Scooby-Doo look.
Yeah, but the lines on... We should have thought more about what the lines on it looked like. Like, it looks... The actual detail on the characters is better. It's just kind of the quality of the color and the animation itself that makes it look, more in line with the stuff from that era.
Also, just the way everything's drawn.
I feel like some of the detail is more in line with early 80s. I mean, it's early 80s as well, I'm pretty sure. If it's not, oof.
It feels like the stuff that DC was doing like 10 years earlier with like the Super Friends. Like, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, but but compare it to the Super Friends show in the 80s, though. It probably doesn't look much better.
With a slightly higher,
The Super Friends continued into the 80s, you know that, right? It was called something else. It was called, like, the Challenge of the Super Dudes or whatever. It was called something else. Darkseid was there.
Yeah,
the first time Darkseid was put on screen. They did some super, because they, this is, I mean, they were getting into, like, post Crisis DC, which is, when you started to have a very different Superman mythos and everything. So they did some of that, and they had Cyborg. They had some of the Teen Titans, because that was all a thing. I mean, this is also post Nightwing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did an early version of Nightwing, maybe. In the Batman 66, Wonder Woman 77 crossover comic, it takes place in the 70s, not the 60s, obviously, because it's, crossover with that 70s Wonder Woman show.
Yeah. Because it's a lot easier to have Batman and Robin age 10 years than it is to have Wonder Woman go back in time.
Yeah, but the first season of that show takes place in the 40s, so they very easily could have just had her pop up in the 60s. And then they jumped to the 70s in the second season. So they could have easily just had her pop up in the 60s. I mean, she's immortal anyway, so they could have done that. However, what they did instead is they had a 1970s Gotham, and they jumped 10 years with the Batman show. And there is no Batman. Dick Grayson is Nightwing protecting Gotham on his own. Batman has disappeared, and that's like the story. I kind of want to read it for that reason alone, because I want to see the 60s universe equivalent of Nightwing. Because Nightwing is like one of my favorite things. So, that's fascinating as fuck.
The more we talk about this, the more pissed I am that we never got that '89 comic. So let's move on.
All right. Where should we go from here? Where do we go from here? All right. Why don't we talk about a strange cliff face that appears to lay eggs every 30 years.
Sounds wonderful.
I cannot even imagine. Oh, this is another one by Tom Hale. Tom Hale gets a double whammy from us tonight, so lucky him.
Hey, Tom Hale, don't fuck up. Which other one did he write?
The one we just read, the one about the ant.
Oh, okay.
So he's cool with us so far. An egg-laying rock face in the misty mountains of China sounds like some old mythological legend, but lo and behold, the geological phenomenon does actually occur, albeit with egg-shaped rocks, not actual eggs. Thank you. We appreciate the clarification. One of these mysterious cliffs can be found in a remote corner of Quianan-Bouye, I'm probably not saying that right, I imagine, and Mao Autonomous Region. Oh man, I'm fucking this up so bad. In China's southwestern Guizhou province. I would not do well if I went to China. The nearest village contains just 20 households, but has become well known for its strange egg-laying rock-faced video below. So far, they have collected around 68 of these odd rocks, as Chinese media reports. Every so often, about once every 30 years, the 6-meter high cliff appears to shed an egg, and it falls to the floor. The eggs are no more than 20 to 40 centimeters in diameter. That's 8 to 16 inches. According to the locals, there are other smaller stone eggs nearby. So what could explain this strange cliff? Scientists who have been to the site are divided. Although the main consensus is that it has something to do with erosion and different hardness of rock, the cliff is made of common type of calcareous rock that was formed about 500 million years ago in the the Cambrian period. The eggs, on the other hand, are concretions made of tougher, heavier sediment deposits. This means that the cliff face tends to erode away quicker than the eggs during prolonged rainfall or sudden landslides. The roundness of the eggs is likely due to running water. However, it isn't clear how or why so many became embedded in the rocks. You can find these round rocks popping out of cliff faces elsewhere in the world, such as in Colorado, image above, although it isn't known whether the egg-shaped rocks also fall to the ground as they do in the small village in China. So it's pretty easily explained, just a different kind of rock from the rest of it that's falling away due to erosion. However, it's certainly bizarre that it does it so, similar to an actual laying of an egg. I'm seeing a picture of it. It is pretty weird looking, but I can imagine this in like 20 years turning out to be like a slow alien invasion plot. Like that episode of Doctor Who with the cubes.
Or an art installation.
Potentially an art installation. That will be so much more impressive than that whale one we talked about, though. Right? Like, if it was spread out over all these years, there was this whole Chinese village duped into it. There was, they have rocks all over the world that match up with this that don't do the same kind of motions. My God, it would be a conspiracy for the ages. I would love to talk about it on the show. But unfortunately, no cigar, my friend. Alright, so let's move on, shall we? Dylan, why don't we discover why are we so terrified of clowns? Would you like to know? Are you interested?
I mean, isn't it just the uncanny valley thing, and also the uncertainty of what the person behind the makeup is capable of?
I don't know. Let's find out together, shall we? Let's see what they put forward. The clown is a staple for Halloween costumes, horror films, and children's nightmares. The figure of the evil clown has inspired countless characters. Pennywise from It. Oh, I wonder when this article came out. The Joker from Batman, Sideshow Bob, Wrestler Doink, The Clown, Sean Crahan from Slipknot, and many others. In fact, when was the last time you ever saw a happy clown on TV? It was even an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I remember, where there was a clown who went crazy and took Uncle Phil, Carlton, and Will hostage. Do you remember that episode? Oh. They were trapped in a convenience store. It was amazing. Oh, He was this like fat, really low rent clown. It was great. He takes the forces them to drive him to the courthouse where Uncle Phil is presiding. It's great. Anyway, even before the Freddy Kruegers and Beetlejuices of our time, there's a rich history of clowns. Two things that are not clowns, which is interesting. There's a rich history of clowns hiding a dark soul behind their painted-on grins. In an attempt to explain this strange overlap between the funny and the freaky, there's a lot of psychology and anthropology about clowns and why they make some people feel pleasure while others experience less enjoyable emotions. Does anybody feel pleasure at clowns? Does anybody like a clown? Do you like clowns, Dylan? I mean, aside from the fact that you are one.
I mean, I really like that clown who recently made a few appearances on Conan. Did you see that?
No.
It was fucking hilarious.
I did see that. Yeah, but he was like that. That's like a sarcastically creepy clown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I'm talking about.
I'm sure that
I mean like a genuine clown, like a clown that has gone to clown school.
I don't really dislike clowns to begin with. I don't have colorophobia, or however you're supposed to pronounce it, colorophobia, whatever.
Scared of clowns disease, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not one of my things. Say that a clown can't be scary, but it's just not. There has to be more to it than the fact that it's a clown in order for it to...
Oh, you jumped to are they scary? All right, I was just talking about if you liked them. I was going to ask, have you ever been to a circus?
I don't know if... Yes, a long time ago. I don't know if...
Did you like the clowns there?
I don't know if a clown is really a thing that you like. I think it's just a thing that exists.
I'm sure they'd love to hear that. I'm sure that's what they went to school for. That's what they... quote unquote paid all their towards all their education for, is to be like, nobody's supposed to like us. We're just supposed to be there.
Right. Like I don't think there's anybody out there who likes, like, I don't know, a muskrat, but occasionally one will walk by and you acknowledge the fact that it exists.
Yeah,
you know
but
what
we're
I mean?
not talking about a thing that is evolved just to survive. We're talking about like a profession that people take up because it's supposed to bring people joy. So I'm talking about the fundamental flaw of an institution. That's what I'm talking about.
Clowns, they don't do it for me in either way, in either the horror way or the...
I just imagine a clown is like listening in and it's just like, I didn't do it for you, Dylan. I did it for me.
Well, then you have very strange needs, sir. If you had a balloon fetish, you could do that without the makeup.
I do, trust me.
I've seen it done.
Me too.
But
I would love to do an interview with a clown, not in the same room. It would have to be over Skype, but where I could hang up. I could hang up on them if I wanted to. But I would love to do an interview with a clown.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, how did you
clowns
arrive?
Listening, by the way. I mean, good on you. I have no bias against you personally. I'm just kind of questioning. Again, I'm questioning an institution more than I'm criticizing any individual people.
I'd just like to know how you fell into this line of work. How did
literally or figuratively?
How did you get to the point in your life where you are being this right now?
You're being a literal clown. I called Dylan a clown jokingly before, but he took. I had to make it clear that I was joking. Otherwise, he really would have taken that to heart. We might never be friends again.
Yeah, sure, but
you don't toss that word around lightly.
It's one of those professions. I used to look at librarians. I used to look at librarians, and it was sort of the same thing. I don't think anybody ever grows up thinking, I'm going to grow up and be a librarian. It's one of those things that you just sort of fall into. And I'd like to know...
See, I feel like nowadays people do. Because it's kind of a niche thing. Like, I'm going to be a librarian.
Have you ever seen a librarian that was happy to be doing their job, though?
Yes. And it scared me.
I haven't. At least some fucking old woman. It was like...
Old women can be happy to be there, but they're also... yeah, I had a miserable high school librarian. That was the worst. There was a peppy younger dude, though, at my college, so...
See,
he was
that's
alright.
not right.
No, it was weird. It was very weird. They oftentimes had students working there though as well, so that was another factor.
Yeah, that's typically a thing with college libraries. It was the same thing for me, but a happy librarian is not natural.
No,
You don't deserve to be happy. You're a librarian.
you don't deserve to be happy. How dare you take pride in your work, you son of a bitch! I can't take pride in my work. You can't take pride in yours. It's against the public trust. Everybody's supposed to be miserable in their jobs. That's how America works. We all have this quiet understanding of the fact that the world is terrible and that we don't want to live in it. That's how we all get through the day.
You didn't choose to be a librarian. You are the library system's bitch, all right? So why don't you go back to fondling
The library
Dewey's
chose you.
Why don't you go back to fondling Dewey's Decimals and leave me the fuck alone?
The Dewey Decimal System, do you think that's still a thing? Do people still use that?
That's definitely still a thing. I've seen it in action.
Recently, though?
The last time I went to a library, which was...
When was the last time you went to a library? Like 1985?
Not in the immediate past, but not a matter of years ago.
Not in 1985, presumably, because you weren't born yet.
No, either earlier this year or sometime last year I've been to a library, and yeah, the Dewey Decimal System is still a thing. Nobody's come up with a better fucking way to organize books, apparently.
Alphabetically?
How about subject? But basically that's what the Dewey Decimal System is. It breaks it down by subject, and then they're in alphabetical order. And I'm like, well, then why don't you just say the fucking subject instead of having me memorize a fucking number?
The number of the subject... I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to talk about this. I buy my books on Amazon, or I listen to people read them to me. That's how I do it. I'm killing the libraries in industry slowly but surely. Industry.
Oh, a library is a great place where poor people can read and homeless people can sleep.
It's wonderful. I've seen the day after tomorrow. I know how it works.
It's very important to people who don't have computers but have internet homework that they need to do. You know, it's...
Yes, that was an aspect of my life that I used to have to deal with. You ever have that problem where you were at a point in your life where it's like, you need to use a computer for this, and you're like, fuck, my parents are poor.
We didn't even have the internet until around the time that I was going to go into high school. If we needed to do anything online, we would just go to the fucking library, which was not often. But then it was like, I'm gonna be in high school. Like, there's gonna be internet things that I'm gonna have to do. We should probably get internet, and that's when we did it.
I didn't get it that much I mean, it was earlier, but not that much earlier. I got it like going into middle school.
Yeah, so
I had it at an earlier point in my life. But
I mean, we're old enough to remember, Bill, a period of time in which the internet was still a luxury as opposed to a necessity.
It still feels like a luxury to me. It still feels like, oh my god, I can check the horrible news of the world on my phone every morning when I get up.
Yeah, but it's much more of a necessity now than it ever was before, though. Like, it's becoming harder and harder to function in our society without access to the internet.
Right.
It's eventually Wi-Fi is just going to have to become like another fucking bill. Like it's going to be just a public thing, and you pay for it like you do water, and then your Wi-Fi, you have Wi-Fi for the month.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You think we're going to have to get there? I mean, some countries have already started implementing like public Wi-Fi, so you don't think that's probably not a route for America.
I think it could happen.
It could happen.
Especially as we approach the singularity, which, yes, please.
I'm good. I don't
People
want
are terrified. People are terrified of the singularity. I'll be a Borg and not die, and then just sort of calculate. That's fine.
Why? What are you gonna calculate about?
I don't know.
How are you gonna fuck somebody?
Whatever needs calculating.
See, existence is enough for you. You don't want it. This is the difference in our philosophies. I feel the absolute survival versus comfort.
Did you say? How are you gonna fuck somebody?
Yes, I did.
there's no world in which the bionically enhanced penis that you would have as some sort of futuristic Borg person is not better than the fucking measly penis
You're just gonna be calculating stuff. Why would you even? You wouldn't even want to fuck somebody. It's not even a matter of how. It's a matter of like you wouldn't even. You'd be like, well, that doesn't calculate. Why would I do that?
That depends on if you calculate that hip to waist ratio.
Why would I do that? She's gonna say no.
Well, no, because we would still need to reproduce so that we would have new people to plug into the machines.
I don't think that if this is but if this is a Borg world where we're all just calculating, I think we've gotten to like Man of Steel levels there, and we're genetically engineering our children.
It's probably for the best.
I'm Jarrell out there banging a hot lady though, and sending my kid out into space.
See,
like a fucking lunatic.
We'll finally find
spelling the end of our race, which is what ultimately happened in that movie. Is Superman wiped out the rest of the Kryptonians?
Yeah.
Oh, good movie. Some of it anyway.
I feel like you took the comment about calculating very seriously. It didn't literally mean that you're going to sit around just calculating all day. Although, what a time.
Yeah, what a fun way to spend your days. We were learning about clowns though. So
like this bullshit we have to do every 5 seconds, where we're like, oh, is Mesopotamia a thing? Let me type that into the Google machine.
See, I don't have to worry about that because I have you to do that for me. So.
No, son, I want to reach the point where we don't have to type shit into the Google machine because we'll just have the internet in our brains, motherfucker.
Yeah, but you could just use the microphone. There's a microphone option now. You can just be like, hey, Google, look this up. And it'll be like, all right.
That's the first step to what I'm talking about. We're making it easier.
That's enough for me. I don't need any more than that. I don't want it to know anything else about me personally. I already don't like that I get ads on Facebook for like Spider-Man t-shirts because I sometimes like stuff that involves Spider-Man.
Eventually, it'll be like Jim Carrey in Batman Forever, where you're just having the information beamed into your head.
I definitely want that. That's cool. I'm down for that. I want to be on the box for sure.
And you're just sitting in a chair having some sort of brain-gasm.
Yeah, and also like weirdly disfiguring yourself, which never pops up in the rest of the movie. Oh no, it pops up at the very end. He looks all like monstrous and shit.
Yeah, because I guess that's what happens when you.
But it goes away after a time. It's not permanent.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Like
so see, there's no lasting
That is like the best Batman movie. Can we just say that? In my humble opinion, that is the best Batman movie.
I think there's an argument to be made.
We'll make it at some point. We're gonna go through the Batmans at some point, but I don't know. I love Batman Forever.
I don't know how popular our opinion is on that. But,
I don't give a fuck.
We're both staunch Batman.
I came on here. I didn't like Frightened. I don't give a fuck what people think about how I feel after I watch a movie.
I mean, oh yeah, you get a little bit of shit for that in the comments too, didn't you?
No, not really. I got very respectful shit. The most respectful shit that I could have possibly asked for.
That's good. That's good. A regular Mr. Hanky. When we ever get around to talking about Batman '89, that's going to be the next Fright Night episode.
Potentially. I haven't seen that in a long time, so I don't know what my take on that is going to be walking out of it, but we shall see. But
It's going to be a whole lot of you going, this scene was fucking dumb, and me going, that scene's fucking great.
I feel like that's always our dynamic, even with stuff that we agree on, though. is we both come at it from a different point, and we yell at each other about why the other one is wrong until we come to a consensus. That's the beautiful thing about this show.
I see. Well, see, the reason you're wrong about the singularity is that.
Yeah.
Is that the planet not getting any better? So
do I have to look like a Borg if this is going to happen?
I mean, theoretically, no.
Can I look like John Stamos? I don't know.
I feel like we're probably heading in a bit more of a sort of ethereal direction than literal like Cyberman type technology. You know what I mean? There'll
Which
probably be a
that
period.
disappoints me. I would rather have a Cyberman body than be a big floating bunch of numbers in a cloud, which is probably what we're really going to end up being.
I mean, I feel like we'll have both. I feel like there'll be an adjustment period where we're basically a planet full of cyborgs running around yelling "booyah," and then eventually we we become sort of beings of energy or something. I don't know. It depends. But
Mm,
point is, planet not getting any better.
no.
Colonization of other planets takes too damn long. We're gonna have to fucking stop being people in order to survive.
Have we ever talked about? I know we're not talking about the clown stuff, but we've talked about the clown stuff before, so whatever. But have we ever talked about the
Essentially proposing the Davros solution, but I think it's a real option.
Davros? Yeah, but Davros's whole thing was I'm gonna basically evolve our people before we evolve, and by that it's not gonna be us. It's gonna be a bunch of other stuff that will represent us. But what I was gonna say though, have we ever talked about the series of books that inspired The Future is Wild? There's this you know, it's all kinds of different.
You have talked about them to me before. I don't remember if it was on recording or not.
Well, there are different books in that series. One of them is What If the Dinosaurs Had Never Gone Extinct, which is fucking fascinating. One of them is What If Man Went Extinct, and there was just there were the wildlife evolved thereafter without man, and that's the thing that inspired The Future is Wild. The third book, in my opinion, the dinosaur one's really interesting, but the third one's probably the scariest in what they show you, is what if all other animals went extinct and humankind evolved to fill in the role of every other animal on the planet.
Oh yeah, you've described this to me. Yeah,
And one of them is
you basically get a bunch of new
the means we devise for space travel is brains in a big hard crab-like casing with like spidery legs and arms that we use to manipulate stuff on satellites, which I thought was like really scary. Like that's what I think you're talking about, is really just changing what we are just so we can serve some kind of function, or survive in an environment where we can't be our humanity itself is not going to be enough.
Yeah, yeah. South Park had a pretty good take on what humanity would eventually evolve into. They didn't do the whole like. They went strictly genetic. They didn't do like the whole "what if we become machines" thing. But basically, and you know what? This is totally believable. Like I actually think that this could happen. Basically, because we all just keep breeding with each other over time. There's no more races in the future in South Park. There's just one race of this sort of plain brownish color because all of the races have just mixed, and that's what we've
Wouldn't it
arrived
be
at.
more of like a gray?
Maybe, but no. And then the show was just sort of a light brown because we've all just sort of kept mixing until there's only one race, and they're bald and they all speak like this really weird language. It's totally believable in how it's presented. The funny part is that the future is so overcrowded that they start traveling back in time to get jobs, and they basically become the new Mexicans.
That's fucking fascinating. See, South Park does some really like just straight up without talking about comedy, just like good social commentary and science fiction sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we should cover some more South Park on the show at some point.
We'll get
do another one of those like we did where you had me watch an episode of something and then I had you watch the Woodland Critter Christmas, which what an introductory episode.
Yeah, we were gonna do like a Halloween special for South Park and a Halloween special for the Real Ghostbusters, but we didn't get the chance because we ended up doing all the horror movies.
We totally forgot about it.
Yeah, we'll do that next year.
We should do that next year. Just 3 horror movie reviews and 1 episode that's that, because there are a couple good ones I can think of for South Park.
I mean, there's one really good one for the Real Ghostbusters that's like the best episode, so I definitely want to talk about that.
Uh, there was just one this year, the Halloween-themed episode of South Park. I don't
Mm.
know if I'd put it up there among the best. I'd have to watch the other ones again, but it was pretty entertaining.
Mm. All right, D. I think we kind of lost the thread on the clown thing, so I decided to move on because I read
Is
on a
that the
little.
article? Is that the article we're still on?
Well, we were. We're gonna move on. Uh,
What if that's what we evolve into? Clowns. What if we become the
we're
killer clown?
all already clowns, D.
No, yeah.
Ah.
What if we turn into killer clowns from outer space? That was always one of the
Then
fascinating
we
ideas.
can go to space. It'll be great. We can go to Mars and be creepy clowns there and be fucking scare the Martians and shit.
Go kill people on other planets. It'll be wonderful.
Kill people on other planets. Sure. Hopefully that's what's there. Hopefully there'll be people to kill and exploit. That's what we're good at. So hopefully we can still do that in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what our survival will be based on.
If you sexually harass an alien, does it count? These are the questions that we will ask.
Where is that Star Trek episode?
I feel like there has to be one.
Yeah, there probably is. There was once. I'm sorry, I forgot to say the article title here. We're keeping on with our love of extinct animals with extinct giant frog with bite force of a lion munched on dinosaurs. We have talked about ancient amphibians before, but this a frog. I've heard of the giant salamanders that used to eat dinosaurs and all that, but I've never heard of a giant frog.
Seen in Spirits of the Ice Forest, episode 5, of Walking with Dinosaurs.
Yep, that was the coolest shit ever. And I love the reason why they had to move down south to Antarctica was because the crocodiles were taking over their territory up north. So they had to move on where crocodiles couldn't survive.
I didn't think it was so much they moved to Antarctica. I think it was just they died out everywhere else, and they already happened to be in Antarctica.
Right. Well, yeah, because they're not as sensitive to cold as the crocodiles are, which I think is interesting. And I mean, there's still somewhat of a relic of them left in Japan. They're the only amphibian I think that still has some semblance of teeth. They're gnarly things. I feel like we should do a whole episode about like animals that are alive today that are basically like prehistoric relics that are still kind of untouched. Because we talk about the coelacanth, crocodiles in and of themselves, sharks,
and how really terrifying a chicken is when you look at it up close.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about birds in general, and which birds in particular really show the connection between dinosaurs, like emus and ostriches. And we've talked about ostriches before. But emus and all that, flamingos.
Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, a great sequel to 1 Million Years BC, if you view it through a certain lens.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. Imagine if Alfred Hitchcock had directed that movie.
My god, it would be a lot.
Hitchcock story, Harryhausen effects. Oof. That's a doozy.
That would be. He would never do it, but it would be.
Oh, he would have. He would have. They would have never made a movie. They would kill each other if they ever were in a room. The universe is not big enough for Ray Harryhausen and Alfred Hitchcock to team up.
Not that I think he would necessarily like turn his nose up at it, although he certainly walked around with that thing sticking up in the air.
He might have done it he might have done it unintentionally.
I think it would more a matter of that's just not the kind of story that interested him, obviously, because he never did anything remotely like that. He was much more about. It wouldn't have to be
dinosaurs necessarily. Like, I mean, outside of it being 1 million years BC, like
he was much more about here's a movie about a murder thriller. I'm like, another one? And he's like, yeah.
Yep, somebody's dead, and we're gonna find out why. All right, Al, you know how to make them.
He should have done an adaptation.
Somebody is dead, and we must find out who did it. It sounded like Connery, but hey, you got the idea.
He should have done an adaptation of Murder on the Orient Express. It would have been great.
I do kind of want to see the new one, though. It looks somewhat intriguing. Although Johnny Depp looks horrible in it. Everybody else looks like they're kind of with it, but I don't know what happened to him. He's not on point anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I know what happened to him. It's been in the news, but he's not on point.
Michelle Pfeiffer's in it. She's been pretty good ever since she came back to acting.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
I've recently rewatched Wolf. She's good in Wolf.
Daisy Ridley from Star Wars. That surprised me. This is the first not Star Wars trailer I think I've ever noticed her in. You know, John Boyega had that fucking Circle movie, and now he's got Pacific Rim coming up. Oh, and he had that movie Detroit also.
He was in stuff before that anyway, like Attack the Block.
Yeah, which I have not seen any of those things, but I've heard good things about them. Well, not about all of them. The Circle was apparently garbage, but
yeah, which is interesting because people were really excited for that.
It had a good trailer.
Yeah, I liked the trailer as well.
I mean, it gave away the whole plot, but it was a good trailer.
All right, before we get too far away, giant prehistoric frog, better than the Circle. Agreed?
Agreed, although this article is definitely clickbait. This is one of the ones that I read around the time that it came out. It ate small dinosaurs. We're not the article might give you the impression that we're talking about some sort of gigantic.
Yeah, like those fucking mosasaurs that would jump out of the water and fucking grab T-Rexes and shit.
Yeah, you might get the impression that we're talking about some gigantic, like Godzilla-sized amphibian.
The Liopleurodon-esque frog.
Hopping around and fucking snatching up brontosauruses with their tongues. No, we're talking about a larger than average frog that would eat some of the smaller dinosaurs. You know, like your little chicken-sized basically early birds. You know, hopping around with their proto feathers or whatever. That's what we're talking about here.
But what is interesting though, outside of that kind of exaggerated element, they didn't use their tongues to catch their prey. They just had the bite force of their mouth. There was no other trick. The bite was comparable to that of tigers and wolves. So not even these fuckers. Rachel Baxter is who wrote this, so she is not one of my faves, not gonna lie. Researchers have estimated that the now extinct Beelzebufo frog, which lived in Madagascar about 68 million years ago. Is that Beelzebub? Is that a play on that?
Lord of the Flies, you know.
Oh, okay, right. Had an extremely impressive bite capable of crunching up small dinosaurs and crocodilians. So there you go. There's that connection as well. Publishing their findings in Nature's Scientific Reports, they worked this out by measuring the bite of a fairly similar, albeit smaller species of frog that's still alive. The South American horned frog, a popular pet due to its appetite and comical appearance, is sometimes nicknamed the Pac-Man frog because of its bite of its big smiling mouth. Unlike most species, these frogs have strong jaws and a powerful bite thanks to their short, heavy bone structure and strong jaw muscles. This allows them to catch dangerous animals like snakes and rodents that often match them in size. Many people find horned frogs hilarious because of their big heads and fat, round bodies. Have you seen those in person? I've seen them in pet stores. They freak me out. They sit there, they just stare at you like they're going to bite your face off.
Horned frog?
Yeah.
Hold on.
The Pac-Man frog. It's more commonly known.
I saw one of these at the zoo once. Yeah.
You never saw one in a pet store?
No.
You probably saw a bigger species then. I've seen the smaller species that they sell in pet stores. They're freaky. I mean, yeah, you feed them rats and stuff, and it's like having a pet snake or a bigger lizard.
Yeah. They. I mean, I'm looking at one right now on Google. He does not look thrilled about his position in life.
Because they put them in super small enclosures because they just sit there all day. They don't live very active lifestyles.
I feel like this frog I'm looking at looks like someone famous, and I can't put my finger on it. You know,
it looks like Jabba the Hutt, but
I mean, I definitely can't put my finger on somebody famous. They'll file allegations, but I'm saying I can't remember who I'm thinking of. Let's see. No, yeah, this is wild. Yeah, I saw some sort of frog with a gigantic head in the zoo earlier this year. So, sure, it was probably...
You sound like a guy describing something he saw on the back of his pickup right now. Like, I was in my pickup and I saw the frog. He came from the left at my pickup.
Had a big old head. I don't know if it was a species of big-headed frog Or
I don't even know if it was a frog or if it was a toad. I don't know the distinctions of such things. I'm not a scientist, as we say.
I was left wondering whether it comes from a species of large frogs or if it is a smaller species of frog, and this particular individual is suffering from diabetes. I was not...
Wilford Brimley speaks out against frogs. He speaks out against all frogs. Listen, my fellow Americans, frogs are an evil abomination. We must wipe them all out.
This frog actually does kind of look like Wilford Brimley. I think that's who I was trying to think of.
You probably were.
If you type, it's the funniest fucking picture I think I've ever seen. Why is it not a meme? If you type horn frog into Google and just look at the second image result.
I already have to delete from my search history. Horn frog, hang on. Give me a second.
He's like brown and he's sitting on a leaf, and the look on his face.
Yeah, I can see the diabetes coming out of his mouth.
My God, he needs to be on the title card in some fashion. Work on that.
I'll figure it out.
Look at this frog. Oh, I want one.
I'll get you one for Christmas. No.
I just want one of these frogs to like sit on my shelf in my room, and every time I look at him, he'll just have this look on his face like I'm so disappointed in my station in life.
He doesn't even have a fucking tank. He's just going to be sitting there.
Just catching whatever bugs fly by.
Yeah, but would need more. Yeah, but he doesn't have a tongue. Dude, I don't think they have tongues.
Oh, well then.
He would be He would die. You'd have to feed him. You'd have to like catch mice and feed them to him.
Well, then I guess he's just gonna have to try harder.
This is not a household where you can just sit around and be fed, Mr. Pac-Man Frog. I didn't ask to be here, man. You fucking kidnapped me. Brought me here against my will.
I'm doing this for your own good. You got to lose some weight. Literally every member of my species looks like this. Don't give me those excuses, damn it.
He's literally just sitting there, just like... Because they don't ribbit or anything. They just sit there. Just silently hating themselves.
And then he gives me a really condescending look, and he doesn't speak because he's a frog. But in my mind, I know. Naturally. But in my mind, I know what he's saying is why are you giving me weight loss advice?
I think the unchanging expression is what really fascinates me there.
To which I respond, "Shut up, frog," or I will step on you.
Dylan McCandless' conversations in his own mind with this frog.
I don't even know what I'm rambling about anymore.
So we were talking about this prehistoric frog, but I want to find out how big it was. That's what I've been looking for.
That's what I want in the next Jurassic World movie. Just this frog, just fucking hopping out from behind a tree and eating a T-Rex.
So apparently, this Beelzebub frog apparently had a bite force of 2,200 newtons, as strong as a lion's jaw. So the lion comparison was apparently justified. At this
that's over 2,199 newtons.
Oh my fucking god! What are the odds? What does that say about his power level? At this bite force, Beelzebufo would have been capable of subduing the small and juvenile dinosaurs that shared its environment, said study author Dr. Mark Jones of the University of Adelaide.
Sounds like the Canadian devil from South Park. Instead of Beelzebub, his name is Beelzebut. That's what it sounds like.
We are pretty far in, so I'm gonna do two more. I'm gonna find two more.
Find some juicy ones, Bill. Let's give them let's give them a show. Wasn't there another species discovered recently that wasn't a big frog?
Well, this is an extinct animal. I have one that's not extinct, so yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that next. I want to talk about the pyramid thing though, since that happened recently. So this isn't so much weird or bizarre, or potentially poorly written. This is a thing that happened in the news of late. Scientists discovered a giant, never before found before, big open space under the Pyramid of Giza. Just a big, vast, empty chamber. So it's been the Great Pyramid. This comes from NPR. This article. The Great Pyramid of Giza has been probed with the tools of modern particle physics by scientists who say they have discovered a huge secret space hidden within its ancient walls. It is located above a tall cathedral-like room known as the Grand Gallery, and this newly found space is comparable in size, about 100 feet long, according to a report in the journal Nature. That makes it a major structure within this royal tomb, which was built around 2500 BC and is considered to be one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Yet until now, despite centuries of study, no one knew this space was there. The romantic interpretation, and what everyone wants to hear, is that this is a hidden room and the king's body is inside, or there's grave goods we didn't know about, or we're going to learn more about history, and none of that is responsible speculation at the moment. Cautions Peter der Manuelen, an Egyptologist at Harvard University, who was not part of the research team. So what the fuck does he have to say about it? All we know is that we have a void. We have a cavity, and it's huge, which means possibly intentional and certainly worthy of further exploration. In that sense, it's obviously frustrating. On the other hand, as an architectural discovery, something we didn't know about the interior of the Great Pyramid, it's absolutely big news. Indeed, the team that made the final reports, reports that it is the first significant internal structure found within the Great Pyramid since the 19th century. That's a big deal. Mehid Tayyubi with the HIP Institute in Paris explains that he and his colleagues wanted to investigate the pyramid using the best available non-destructive analytical techniques. They settled on a type of imaging that involves muons, which are tiny particles like electrons. What is strange for me is to use those very, very small particles for a huge monument like the pyramid. I'll stop it with your artistic irony. Enough with that. This is not an art installation.
So what you're saying is they bombarded the pyramid with these mulons in order to map the interior. Is that what you're saying?
That seems to be the idea here. Yes.
Kind of the Dark Knight style.
Yes. Muons are made from cosmic rays from deep space hit the atoms of the upper atmosphere. These particles rain down and lose energy as they pass through materials, like the thick stones of the pyramid, and that makes them slow down and decay. By placing muon detectors in strategic locations, researchers can count the number of muons coming through and create a kind of picture that reveals whether the material above is dense like stone or an empty space. Tayobi explains that his team installed sheets of muon-detecting film in a lower-level room of the pyramid known as the Queen's Chamber. The goal was to test whether they could use muons to accurately discern 2 well-known rooms located above. They saw those rooms too, but to their surprise, they found an additional large space as well. So they found this space when they were just setting up, and testing it, which is fucking awesome. The first reaction was a lot of excitement, but then we knew it would take us a long, long time, that we needed to be very patient in the scientific process, because they didn't want to rely on just one method. They confirmed the find using 2 other muon detection techniques. See, it's all just talking about how big the void is, and we just don't know what it's there for. He wants to send in small robots, apparently, to get into the tiny cracks and see if they can get in there and provide more information about it.
Yes, I'm a fan of that idea. Let's send tiny robots.
Yeah, me too. In the past, though, people just used to blast through walls and find out what was in there. Fucking Doctor Who Pyramid of Mars style.
Yeah.
But apparently the big point here was to not damage it.
Yeah, well, it's no longer the fucking Stone Age. Now we have tiny robots.
So who needs to blow through walls is the idea, I guess.
Exactly.
All right, D, so we're going to wrap up with our final article of the night, and it's one that you pointed me to. So we're going to talk about the new species of orangutan that was discovered. Is that what you were referring to before?
I'm not sure. I just knew that there was another new species other than the frog that I remember hearing about. So this could very well be it.
This is not extinct, though. This is a living creature. Humanity has just recognized a new living cousin, but it is even more endangered than other members of the great ape family. The new species, dubbed Pongo tapanuliensis, probably represents the oldest existing orangutan species, but it's restricted to a small patch of our Sumatran rainforest and is estimated to number just 800. The hominid family was once quite diverse, but most of its members are gone. Today it's just us, 2 species of gorilla, 2 chimpanzees, and the not just 2 chimpanzees, 2 species
2
of
lowly chimpanzees.
fucking Caesar and Cornelia chilling out over there, waiting for us to get our shit together, and the orangutans. 2 decades ago...
It sounds like my new favorite sitcom.
I'm down. Oh, I would love it if they did, like, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, but with Caesar and Cornelia. I mean, it'd be weird since, you know, they're not from the future, but just them living in modern society like normal people.
Now, see, I'd rather they did that back in the 70s. And we just had...
So just do it with Cornelius and Zira?
We just had Escape from the Planet of the Apes, but it's like an alternate version where they don't get killed. They just live in the 70s.
Everybody's just cool.
They just live in the 70s now, having 70s adventures. Maybe they adopt a human kid, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to have them... You don't want to have them have... I guess they could have their own. It would be interesting if they adopted a human kid. That's the idea in Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes, that Tarzan is a child raised by Cornelius and Zira.
You want to have both, okay? They need to have their own ape kid, but then they also adopt a human kid. So you get that adopted brothers of different races, different strokes vibe going on. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm down. Dylan, let's write it together. 2 decades ago, it became accepted that the orangutans of Borneo and Sumatra are actually separate species.
All-time high is the theme song.
Hey, you get me a pitch at fucking CBS and I will make it happen. I
just want to take some of the footage from Escape from Planet of the Apes now, where they're just going around the city, like looking at things, because that's such great like sitcom opening footage.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Just edit a bunch of that together with that music. It'd be perfect.
Fucking Zira in the bath and shit.
Yeah,
Cornelius watching the boxing match.
Coming out of the store with the new clothes, and then Cornelius like clapping in the car. Oh,
he was doing more than clapping. Huh? It's like
Good
fucking creaming his orangutan. He's not an orangutan. Creaming his chimpanzee pants.
Good stuff.
Do they ever refer to a tuxedo as a monkey suit in that movie? Because if they don't, they really did not take an opportunity of a joke.
I don't. They did, and you know what? I kind of wish they had now.
Yeah, right? Put Cornelius in like a James Bond X-Tux and call it a monkey suit. Have him get all offended and murder you.
Yeah.
Which was a plot point in that movie. That was the beginning of the end when Cornelius murdered somebody.
So these new orangutans we discovered.
Right. Yeah, apparently the orangutans in Sumatra and Borneo are already considered separate species. P. Pygmaeus and P. abele, an unsurprising finding given that hundreds of kilometers of sea divide them. Now, in current biology, scientists from 4 continents have made the case that orangutans that live south of Lake Toba, Sumatra, are a different species from those north of the lake. More remarkably, the North Sumatran apes are much more closely related to those in Borneo than they are to their relatives a short distance away in the Sumatran forests of Batang Toru. That's interesting. Although local residents have known about these orangutans for a long time, the outside world only recently became aware the population existed in the region's rugged terrain. Zoologists set out to explore whether there were any differences between the population and the better-known ones, but the task was hampered by the reluctance to trap members of such an endangered species. Instead, the researchers relied on genetic analysis of fecal samples compared with the genomes of 37 orangutans from other areas and the skull of a single male that had been killed sometime before, which there's a picture of. The genetics indicated that the newly named Tapanuli orangutans are quite distinct from others, so distinct, the paper's authors argue, they deserve to be regarded as their own species rather than a Sumatran subspecies. Indeed, the genetics are so different, the authors conclude P. Tarpanuliensis and other orangutans separated 3.4 million years ago. The Bornean, and which is like, pre-man, the Bornean and North Sumatran populations only split into different species 670,000 years ago. So that's after man. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. What else do we have here?
What do they look like?
They just look like orangutans to me. I'm seeing a picture. They look a little smaller, and the faces are a little darker, but they just look. I'm not a, like I said, I'm not a primatologist, so I don't know. The skull provides an indication of the consequences of the genetic differences. The Australian National University told IFL Science that the skull is smaller than any other known orangutan male. Yeah, there you go. So I did point that out. At a similar stage of development. On the other hand, the teeth are unusually large, particularly the canines. There are also reports of behavioral differences. Despite this, P. tapanuliensis have not been totally isolated from their more numerous cousins. The authors report evidence of gene flow between the Sumatran populations long after they became separate species. Curiously, however, this all seems to have gone one way. Apparently, because members of the tapanuliensis have sometimes come down from the mountains to look for company, while few, if any, of the North Sumatran orangutans have made the opposite journey. In consequence, P. tapanuliensis appears to be a remarkably well-preserved sample of an ancestral orangutan population, so there's been very little mixing with the other Sumatran orangutans. Interesting. Great apes are among the best-studied species in the world, said a news Dr. Eric Megiard in a statement. If after 200 years of serious biological research we can still find new species in this group, what does it tell us about the other stuff that we are overlooking? Hidden species, unknown ecological relationships, critical thresholds we shouldn't cross. Humans are conducting a vast global experiment, but we have near zero understanding of what impacts this really has and how it could ultimately undermine our own survival. P. tapanuliensis orangutans survived in part because their homeland is too rugged and remote for much human interference, but that may change. A proposed dam would not only remove 8% of their range, but also cut across possible migration corridors, increasing inbreeding on both sides. Poaching could become a threat even if the land is unsuitable for the palm plantations that have devastated orangutans elsewhere. Groves told IFL Science the Indonesian Minister for the Environment has been alerted to the importance of the issue, but at this point Groves could not point to any specific programs to protect the new species. He suggests those who wish to maintain the hominid family should donate to general orangutan conservation programs, such as the Orangutan Conservancy and the Jane Goodall Institute. So, leave your tips in the comments. But yeah, that's very interesting. I was riveted by that, so that's why I read all of it. I didn't skip anything there. I think that's fucking interesting as hell.
Yeah, I don't know what the one dude's problem was when he started talking about, humans, we're doing all kinds of shit and it might undermine our survival. I'm like, calm down, dude. This is an article about us discovering a new form of orangutan. This is not the time.
I like that was a quote, though. It wasn't the guy writing the article who was saying that. That was a quote.
Yeah. It was just a weird extrapolation on the scientist's part that felt like it went a little bit off topic. You know what it felt like? It felt like at the end of a Godzilla movie that doesn't have a message when they decide, we need to throw in a message.
It does a little bit. We discovered this new species, so suddenly the world is going to change forever. Yeah. I can see your point. But overall, I just think that it's really interesting that there's this... I mean, it's sort of the one element of science that we obsess over. There's this relic kind of survival of these older orangutans that are living in Sumatra, not influenced by the other orangutans in Sumatra who are... more recent in their evolution, or adaptations is probably more accurate, whereas the orangutan Borneo are more similar to the newly discovered orangutans because they're of a more ancient ilk, and I think that's interesting. But yeah. So Dylan, overall, I actually learned some stuff tonight. I say that every time, and then I always forget them, but at the moment, I feel slightly more intelligent. My brain is fucking bulging out of my skull. It hurts. So we should probably wrap this up. How do you feel?
Well, I'm not turning into fucking leader from the Incredible Hulk like you apparently are over there, but I felt like there were some interesting articles here, as well as my new favorite frog. So
That frog was cool. L Ant was amazing, and the fact that we have created ANTamantium will forever change the face of comic books, I feel. Ant-Man will never be the same again. And overall, I feel that we have made a generous contribution to the field of science. Wouldn't you agree?
if reading other people's science can be considered contributing to science, then yeah.
We are spreading their word, and I feel that they could ask more of us. So I'm glad that we finally got back to that, though. It's been a while. I enjoy doing those because it's different, and I feel like it kind of goes back to the way this show used to work more, where it was just you and I bullshitting for an hour, and not so much, hey, let's talk about this thing.
Yeah.
I like that. I like going back to that kind of off-the-cuff style, and and the ranting that we did tonight definitely brought back some memories. But next time we're going to be going back to more review kind of structure. I don't know if you remember, so I'm not going to rely on you to remember, but we are going to be reviewing another classic Doctor Who story next week.
Oh, right, yeah.
We are going to be continuing in our...
that was the plan.
I figured you did, so I just figured I'd roll with it. We're going to be returning to the early days of Doctor Who, and we're going to be talking about the first time the Doctor ever regenerated. Although we're not going to be talking about the actual regeneration itself, because that story is completely lost still. We are going to be talking about the story that took place right after Patrick Troughton's first ever Doctor Who adventure, which was also lost for a long time, but has recently been rediscovered through animation. Well, they made it with the old audio into animation. And that story being Power of the Dalek. So we're going to be reviewing that next week. So, like I said, it's animated, and it was recently released in that form, so you should be able to find it online pretty easily, both officially and unofficially, I imagine. So go check it out.
Big Finish should do that with some of their audio dramas. Maybe I'd finally get around to checking them out. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be great. Doctor Who's done it before, too. There was that 2003 miniseries that is not in continuity with the Richard E. Grant Doctor.
Right, yeah. There was that. There's also that animated David Tennant movie that I still haven't seen.
There's two of those. They're both really bad.
I figured.
One of them is actually somewhat based. It was slightly inspired by the late 80s, early 90s unmade Doctor Who cartoon. It was okay, but the CG one, ooh, it's bad. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about Power of the Daleks next week, so join us for that and many more things in the future. So until those things arise, I am Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
And I'm Super DM64.
Reminding you that you can't see us because it is a podcast, Colonel Hogan.